Greetings, everyone. I won't go through formal festivities, but greatest of the nine here again. Very special time we're in. This is Capricorn. This is a season of structure. This is a period of building a new masterpiece. As you know, different deities, different names, right? Different prophets. They resonate through different avatars, and all that means is paying homage to one deity doesn't mean paying homage to one force. That is centerfold. So even if I call upon something as late and false as Yahshua the Christ or Jesus the Christ, if I call on that doesn't omit entities like Krishna, like Rudra, like Hiawatha, like Heru, obviously the originator. That doesn't exempt that. As a matter of fact, when you call on one energy, you bring in the door for others, again in the same avatar. So during this season, I won't get into who, but basically the controllers are those who have usurped ancient, priceless knowledge, beautiful knowledge, magical knowledge. They have inputted it into the season astrologically to sensationalize what all of this means. So when we think of the word Christ, first we should think of the word Christos, which means crystal, which means shining. Okay, when we think of shining, we think alive, radiating, vibrant, a spark. Okay, so all of these words correlate in, once again, particular avatars. Words have the same effect. So when you say Christ or the shining one, illuminated one, and we're in Capricorn, Capricorn is that goat. So that goat, on the low represents, greatest of all time. So once again, the shining one, the one at the top, you can interpret that as Victor. You could also interpret that as the humble one who has come to the top. The mountain symbolizes the journey and the terrain of earth or life itself. So a lot of these beautiful mythologies come full circle around this season, and of course, this is how we've been programmed. So all we want to do is talk about the different avenues we can go to enhance our own personal magnetism, which has been the main concept on all of my videos pretty much for the past 2 weeks. Personal magnetism, allowing yourself to modify the structure using the God mind so that you can generate success. This should be the goal of all of us, but once again, the controllers have us in a cause and effect mainframe, and all we're focused on is going out and getting it. Now, make no mistake, to generate what you need, essentially to eat, to do basic goods and services, purchase this and that, you have to work for it. Ideally, but we're talking about a whole nother layer of the occult side of this manifestation and what it has to do with our own personal energy grid. So this right here is Krishna. Krishna is actually an androgynous hero figure from East India. Of course, brought up through the Dravidian lines, and they all go back to basically ancient Earth. Okay, and Krishna is symbolized by this flute, which is music, which is alchemy, which is having rank on the other dimensions and bringing all these elements together through sound. Okay, so Krishna is known for that. That's a Christ avatar. So what I'm doing is I'm presenting images and figures and archetypes that we can tap into the collective unconscious, and we can resonate with these energies much beyond bowing down. That is another paradigm that has really negated a lot of people's personal power. Even when knowledge starts to intrigue you, we are on the cause and effect. So we think it takes this to get that. It takes me to bow down to this being for this being to work with me. As a matter of fact, from the being's point of view, it's quite the opposite. If one has humbled him or herself to come into what they know is real, then the sky's the limit, the universe is the limit, I should say. So, and also, this belonged to my father. Now, this picture simply just represents a wizard's testament to the unseen, or, when we're doing our ritual work and we can't see the result right in front of us, there's a special inner realm that we have to enter to simply know it's going to work. A master teacher mind put it, you know yourself into reality. So, because when you're using magic and utilizing, all of your own work in any sort of alchemist, whether you're a chef or a musician or a writer or, any sort of chemist, any sort of scientist, you're making something from nothing. So to do that, you have to tap into a source. And even though you can't see it, doesn't mean it's not there. So once again, any symbol representing that transformation is going to enhance your personal Christ consciousness. This image here is kind of hard to see, but represents Rudra. Rudra is another figure out of ancient India, and it's so interesting because when we do our research, and we think about the greatest movies, the greatest heroes, we think of Aragon from the long line of kings in Gondor, Lord of the Rings. We think of, Luke Skywalker, at least not this most recent Luke Skywalker, but, when he was in his prime, right? We think of Harry Potter. Even the point I'm getting at is that all of these figures carried a particular offense about them. They were initiators. They chased their destiny. They were brave. It begs the question, were they nonviolent? So Rudra, again, he represents the warrior aspect of Christ consciousness, because when we go into knowledge, we can enter something, you could really just call it a void, but it's a dark space, the chasms in the corners of your mind where knowledge starts to feed your soul, but the small price is that it almost, it can really sadden you, depending on what you're into, like if you're all about just, getting the books and, I'm going through the books and I got the books and I got this marked and this marked and this marked, that's great for scholarship purposes. But when real knowledge starts to move you, especially living in this society, it really can not depress you, but it can cause you to go, again, into the recesses of your mind, and if you're not careful, you can lose yourself. That's very important. This is why these types of repetitions or personal ceremonies that we're doing, that's why we want to normalize them and streamline them to the point where, it becomes second nature, first, second, and third, and fourth nature. It just becomes an aspect of who we are, so our frequency becomes impregnated with this, all right? For those of us who love our money, I'm going to do a whole nother video on money and how it relates to magnetism. But real quick, if you take the word money, 5 letters, it's 5 being the number of creation. However, if you add an O, or simply a full circle, or a complete understanding, or an occult understanding, it's all symbolic, people. If you add a circle to O, you get the word Mooney. Now, Mooney obviously goes back to the moon and the very currents of the earth itself. This is the root word of money. The founding fathers knew this. All of those so-called great philosophical Masonic thinkers coming out of England and, medieval Europe, who, of course, they had help. They were trained by ancient mystery schools, make no mistake about it. They knew all of this, so they fortified their entire nation off of this. Everybody should get Manly P. Hall's book, Secret Destiny of America, and how they knew what they were doing before this whole colonist pitch about getting lucky and finding some corn. You understand? But anyway, Khonshu he represents the moon. Now, what I have found with these probes into our deeper intentions, into what we want, into, our desires, it has a lot to do with our belief in ourselves. And that sounds very surface level, but a belief in ourselves isn't just marked by, the whole cinematic version of, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, because once again, with great power comes great responsibility. If knowledge is power, then we thus become responsible for how we handle our knowledge and how we distribute it, if we filter it at all, if we choose to teach it, if we choose to try and hold it all in. This is very important. All of those choices I just named and many more is what emanates from our personal current, because every human being has a current that runs throughout their body, many currents actually. But you always wonder, what does money, most people, what the hell does money have to do with electromagnetism? What does money got to do with all that scientific shit, We've gotten those kind of responses. But if you understand the actual frequency that you're emanating is nothing more than your own thoughts, your own vibes, all of these things circulating, marrying each other time and time again. It's very similar to Bruce Lee's famous quote, "Be like water." And if you don't think that money is based off the science of the stars and the science of Earth's frequencies, the science of maritime law, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, all of that, the concept of wealth dispenses from all of that, because it was a science that was here first. So once again, Krishna, he or she, however you wish to interpret, that's the beautiful thing about these deities. The Christ avatar. We have, let's just say, our wizard or alchemist, giving light to a new creation. Rudra, the warrior aspect. And Khonshu. Now, the reason I mention Khonshu with money is because utilizing him the right way, putting him around your financial altars, if you have one, I definitely recommend one. Including him on your own personal shrines. He influences your flow. So your flow may not even be money. Your flow may be configured to chase something like love, attention. It doesn't, material wealth is one aspect of currency, We're just trained to think that that's all it is. So if you don't want that, then you can utilize Khonshu's energy for a myriad of purposes. You don't just have to go the financial route. But because he represents the moon, and because he represents the flow of your own energy, and most of us each day to survive, we have to engage in the grind and play the fucking game. You might want to utilize him during this age of Capricorn, dealing with structure, foundation, laying the cornerstone, and all of these beautiful, more scientific concepts. That's what he should be utilized for.